As a parent, though, you don't know what to do. You would spend all your money to save your child. The first day that I gave him his freedom, because we thought he was doing better, was the night he died.
Hey guys, this is Eric Kennedy with the Recovery Valve Podcast. On today's episode, I have some great friends, Will and Tricia Sherrill. Thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing your testimony with us. I'm super excited about this episode. We're friends. I see you at dinner often and out and about, but you also serve at Stevens Creek Church where I work and where you're volunteers, and thank you for that. But you have a story to tell, both of you. And so we're going to go through your story. So Miss Tricia, I want to start with you.
Well, Eric, life was good. Life was wonderful. We were a family of four. We went to First Baptist on Wednesday nights, on Sundays, and thought we had it all together. And Danny and I, my ex-husband, we were going through a hard time ourselves, but we really feel that this had nothing to do with Ryan's addiction. When Ryan turned around,
Ryan's your oldest son.
Yes.
Okay.
He's turning 34 next week. Around 14 or 15, he was happy. He would speak in front of people at First Baptist. He was very active in his school, and he was very vocal, very outgoing. And then 15, it just started. And started in high school, it just got worse.
Drinking?
Everything. I mean, it started small, I think. And then all of a sudden, you just go, oh my gosh. The friends start going away, and we were all such friends with so many people. And we went to church together. We played ball together. And then those friends started going away. And Ryan just started being different in other aspects. I've asked him a lot of times. He said, Mom, it's just something that I just started to do. And I tried to get some meat out of it, but it doesn't matter. It wasn't because of Danny and I's divorce. In fact, Danny and I grew closer together. We were always in sync. When he was weak, I was there for him. When I was weak, he was there. Meanwhile, Ryan was creating his own life, and Brad was in the background.
Yeah. Did he bring tension to the house, though, through his addiction?
Oh,
or was he pretty good at hiding it and you didn't really know about everything?
Well, he thought he was good at hiding it. It was amazing how God always, whether this is good or bad, I'd always find the needles. I'd always find the bag of pot. I'd always find the pills, the whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then,
so he was in it deep at an early age. You said needles.
Yeah. It was bad. It was bad. It's by the grace of God. It's just, and he's been in jail. He's been in detention centers. He's lived on the street. He's lived in trash cans. He's lived under our house. And it was a trying time to see him. And the safest place a lot of times was him in jail. And we actually could sleep at night. But we sent him to rehab after rehab after rehab. And he said, Mom, Dad, thank you.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen until I'm ready. And I'm not ready.
That's a powerful statement. As addicts, we have to admit that we have a problem.
Right.
For him to tell you that, well, I know I got a problem, but I'm not ready to talk about that yet.
Right. He knew he did. He never blamed us. Never blamed our situation, me and Danny being divorced. He never put blame on us. He took all the blame.
He got along with his dad, got along with you?
Yeah. We would share, even now, we share holidays, birthdays, everything together.
How close were the brothers together?
Ryan,
they weren't close at the time.
No. Ryan is a very selfish person, kind of.
You can say whatever you want to say.
I'm sorry. He knows it. You love him, and he loves you. It was just, he was an addict. And Brad's very shy. Brad's very in the background.
Yeah.
So, no.
Do you remember how old he was when he chose to get sober?
He was 29, almost 30. And he knew in his mind that at 30 years old, I was going to stop it all. And he stopped it all. He went to a rehab in Alabama, his choice.
So he tried rehab a couple times?
Many, and he was always kicked out.
Really?
Always.
I was 30 when I got sober. Now, I traveled a lot. After 9/11, I had a little job with the airport security, top flight security, flashlights and whistles and all the stuff. But I remember the first time I called Alcoholics Anonymous was when I was in Ketchikan, Alaska. I was blackout drunk every day. And my thinking was, well, I'm drinking this brown liquor. I wonder if I drink clear liquor, I'll have a clear mind. That's how stupid I was.
Interesting.
Yeah. But, I just wasn't ready either. I was a lot like Ryan. I just was not ready for that lifestyle yet.
How did your mother feel towards all this?
She didn't know. Yeah, there's things that she's
knew.
still hearing now that she's like, whoa.
She knew. She's just saying that to help
Yeah.
her heart.
Yeah, I mean, and our family was a lot like yours. We all got along, but we were a little bit of Al Bundy and Peg. You know what I mean? My mom and dad. Everybody could have been better. How about that?
Of course.
I'm trying to honor my mom and dad because I love them so much. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing.
But they had to let you go.
Yeah.
When they let you go, because that's what Ryan says, Mom, whenever you and Dad let me go, that's when I finally went, oh, they're not going to bail me out. They're not going to give me money. I got to live under the house. I got to live
hit
in
that rock bottom, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what rock bottom was for him, but how he didn't hit it a dozen times, I don't know.
I mean, it was just, I can relate to that. Because I could have said that first time I tried to kill myself was rock bottom. But no, I tried it again later on, like a year later. Or the first time I almost killed my child in a car wreck when I thought that they were in a car seat. They were never even there.
It's by the grace of God.
It is. So let's talk about your youngest son.
Well, he was kind of just in the background, perfect.
And what's the age difference? I'm sorry.
3 3/4 years. He was very quiet. He was very compliant. Great kid. We loved being around him. Wasn't an athlete like Ryan. He wasn't an extrovert. He's an introvert. Everybody kept telling me, "It's Brad you need to worry about." Oh, what do you mean? He's great. He's fine. He's doing good. Man, if that wasn't true. We didn't love Ryan better than Brad. It was just Ryan required so much attention that I think that Brad just kind of got lost. Now, he says he wasn't. He said, no, I was fine.
Were they out of high school when you and your husband divorced?
No. Brad was elementary and Ryan was middle.
I tasted beer for the first time when I was about 8 years old. I had my first blackout drunk whenever I was 12. And I remember this guy, he had a pet snake. And I remember waking up at one point and they were putting this snake on me. And I hate snakes so much.
Oh, my
so
word.
I puked in his couch. And I remember I wanted to get drunk that day though. I saw the people that were there at this party. Mm-hmm. They were older than me.
Yeah, that was Ryan.
And I wanted to fit in so bad because some of the people that were there had picked on me when I was a little bit younger.
Oh.
And I wanted them to know that I'm not that young kid anymore. I'm cool. I'm 12. I'm getting hammered with you, so we're the same.
Yep.
And I think that was the mentality I had. I always hung out with an older crowd.
Ryan did too. He
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I had great relationships in high school, but I was in a small town and I could not wait to get out of there. Now that place is great for some people, but it wasn't for me. I couldn't wait to move. And it was because I just wanted to experience as much as I could. Mr. Will, your story's a little different. And so I want to be very cautious on how I talk about this because I want to honor your son. But you lost your son to his addiction. 2013. And you were married before Miss Tricia. What was life like at home? And did you know that your son was deep in addiction?
Not really. I mean, he, of course, he was the only child, so he was spoiled and about perfect. And, he and I played golf together every twice a week. And he was on the golf team at Augusta Prep. I mean, everything revolved around him in the good way when that was going on. And then when we found out he was on drugs, of course, that's a major blow.
Was he using in high school?
Probably smoking some dope and stuff like that in high school. And then he got on the hard stuff, I think, when he went off to the University of Alabama. Mm-hmm. Hopefully the statute of limitations has run out. But he was making fake IDs. He was the kingpin in Tuscaloosa. He was making IDs that could pass the black light, the blue light, the yellow light, whatever light they were doing.
Really?
He was selling them to supposedly to different colleges, to fraternities, and to different things, and supporting.
I had a fake ID, but I don't think I got it from him.
Supporting his habit. I mean, that's a federal offense, I believe. I think he was worried that he was fixing to get nailed with that, so he wanted to come home from school, which we didn't really know at first why he wanted to come home from Alabama, because he was actually passing, which he wasn't the smartest kid at prep, but he went off to college, and you're like, oh, my kid passed all his grades his first year in college, so that was good. But then he wanted to come home, so he came home, and then we found him a place, and then we picked him up to go to my niece's wedding, and he was hammered. I mean, I wasn't the perfect kid growing up, so I mean, I was street smart, and I knew he was hammered on something besides alcohol.
Yeah. Hey, before we get back to today's episode, I want to thank the team over at Kendrick Paint Body. Thank you guys so much for your sponsorship of the Recovery Valve podcast. We truly cannot do what we do without sponsors like you.
We left the wedding early. He wanted to go to his house, which was kind of a mistake. So we took him back to his little apartment. I was going on a golf trip at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I rode by his house. and his car wasn't there when I was going to the airport at 5 o'clock. And I think that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
And so I went on to Texas to play golf, and I get a phone call from my wife that he's confessed all his stuff and he needs help and he needs it now. I flew back from Austin, Texas that same day I flew out, got him and took him to St. Simon's.
A rehab there.
As a parent, though, you don't know what to do. You would spend all your money to save your child, even though you don't even know how you're spending it. And then there's plenty of experts.
Yeah.
You can ask Eric, you can ask recovering people, and you'll get 42 different answers.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to answer it ourselves.
Yeah.
And, the friend of mine said, well, it's the 3 C's. You didn't cause it, you're not going to control it, and you're not going to cure it. As much as you want to try to control it, he would go to work with me. I would pick him. I would take him. I'd take him home. Da-da. And the first day that I gave him his freedom, because we thought he was doing better, was the night he died.
What was his drug of choice?
All of them.
All of them. He
was shooting up. He was popping pills. I think he was doing the uppers, the downers. He was doing them all.
Yeah.
He had lots of mentors along the way. Some you probably know. But you want to fix it as a parent, and you spend money and you don't even know what you're spending it on. We put him in Warrior, Alabama, which is 20 miles north of Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of ours, Terry Childress. I don't know if you know Terry.
I know Terry very well.
Terry said that's where he needs to go, and he needs to go now. So we went there in the middle of the night. We get visitations on Sunday at 2 o'clock for an hour. We were driving 20 miles north of Birmingham for an hour visitation every Sunday. So as a parent goes, how that affects your marriage, everything is running around the addiction itself. I think I woke up before my wife did because she would have spent every nickel. And I'm like, whoa, now we got to back up a minute because nothing's quite working. And then he thought he was doing better. They wanted to put him in a halfway house in downtown Birmingham. They thought he needed to go down there. And you start thinking as a parent, well, he's doing better, so he's going to come home. And then he came home, and it doesn't get any better. And then
at any point during that, did you ever hear him say or get the vibe that he wanted this?
They always want help when they're caught.
Yeah.
They act like they won't help when they're caught, but they really don't. They really don't want help.
They need to get through the day.
Mm-hmm. And then so when he passed away in 2013, and then my wife passed away in 2013, because we kept telling Will, you're gonna die, and you're gonna take us with you.
Wow.
And he took however that worked.
Yeah.
He took his mama with him. And
I know that's hard to talk about, Will, and I appreciate you sharing that. There's going to be a lot of parents out there. I think of a couple parents right now that are dealing with a prodigal-type son or a prodigal-type daughter, and they only want exactly what we're talking about, my parents included. They only wanted for me to not want the addiction more than the person.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can't control it.
No, you want to.
I can tell you that there were several times that I wanted control over it. But then I think back to the times where I was living alone in a small trailer, and I'm on my hands and knees looking in the carpet of the hallway because I thought I dropped cocaine or crack, giving away everything to supply this person that gave me what I needed.
But the good side of it, of that part of it, I think God put us together. We went out in high school. And
oh, you guys dated in high
we
school?
did.
A couple times.
Okay.
And then after
once,
college.
Twice.
And then 32 years later, here we are.
I didn't date for over a year after my wife passed away. And then I contacted her. And I think God put us together because our big story is Ryan. Again, I mean, so Ryan was on drugs, and we all knew. And he was the happiest drug addict I've ever seen in my entire life. Everything's rosy. I mean, he's rosy.
Happy.
He came to the house one day. He'd been homeless. This is the best story of all time. So he calls for a meeting, and we meet at the Columbia County Library or outside the library.
Us with Danny.
With Danny.
We're all
her
together
ex-husband.
on this.
Okay.
And Ryan says, guys, I got me a job in Colorado. All the drug addicts seem to want to go teach snow skiing in Colorado.
There's a different thing going
There's
on
a place
in
to
Colorado.
go there. Yeah. So he says, I got a job in Colorado, I said, okay, that's great. He said, but I need a place to live. So Danny says, well, I'll take him in for a couple of days. So we decided, okay, Ryan, we're going to take you on Tuesday. So he comes in the house and he says, I'm going to the Green Jacket game when it was still up at Lake Olmsted. And Tricia says, well, tell him the rules. I said, Ryan, your mama teaches school. It's Tuesday night. Your curfew is 10 o'clock. Because everybody tells you have to set the rules.
Right.
And if they don't play by the rules, then you have to cut them off. But as a parent, you never cut them off. because you just make new rules. I said, let's make sure you understand. 10 o'clock, not 10:01, not 10:02, not 10:03, not 10:04. You don't call and say I'm down the road and I'm on my way. No. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I was thinking of coming home earlier.
I'll be home way before that.
Yeah.
So he gets ready to walk out the door, and I said, Ryan, what are the rules? And you have no right. Not 10:01, not 10:02, not 10:03. We go to bed about 9:30, and we're watching TV, and we're watching Fox News, and it has the clock down at the bottom, and it's just a ticking. And we're like,
pulling for him.
Come on, Ryan. We have set the rules. We have set the rules, and it gets close, and all of a sudden, boom, it hits 10 o'clock. I said, you want to lock the door? You want me to? So we get up and lock the door, and sure enough, the phone rings at 10:07. There's some girl. Yeah. It's my fault, Miss Cheryl. I was the one, how, why were you not here? And she says, well, what do I tell him? I said, tell him not 10:01, not 10:02, not 10:03. And you know what? And he was happy with that. Can you put me a blanket out back?
Yeah. He slept outside.
And slept outside under the house or somewhere. So we did throw a blanket outside. And
That's tough love.
But that was
awful.
But that was
it's awful.
But that was him begging for housing after he'd been homeless. And you would think if you wanted housing that bad, you could get in at 10 o'clock if that was important to you.
Yeah.
And he goes back off to California. And this is kind of where the link with Will is. Her and Danny have sent him to all the rehab places, Arizona and North Carolina and everywhere else, and none of them worked. So he called one day from Mammoth Mountain, California. He says, he'd been talking to Terry. Mm-hmm. He would call Terry. He would call a lot of them. And he had a lot of little people he thought were his mentors and calling him and all. And everybody said, well, you'll know when it's your time. So he calls up finally and says, I'm ready for help. And so we said, okay. So after going through all the stuff we've been through with both of them for so many years, we were always told, if they want help, they know where to go. You don't have to find it for them.
And this is when God put Will in Danny and I's life.
Yeah.
Because he's the strong one and he's the more firm one because he's out of the box. And so he really helped Danny and I.
Yeah, because there's a balance between parenting and enabling, and it's a thin gray line.
And so he's been
hard.
And during this time, he was amazing.
So Ryan calls up and he says, I have found the place I want to go. Well, that's good. Where is it? Opelika, Alabama. Well, that's a nice place. He said, well, there's a problem. I said, well, what's that? I said, well, he says, well, it's expensive. I said, well, how much is it? He said, $60,000. So I said, well, you better keep looking. About 2 or 3 days later, I get a phone call, and the guy says, is this Mr. Sherrill? And I said, yes, it is. This kid's name is Jared Murray. He's been a good thing for Ryan.
He was an angel.
He was an angel for Ryan. Yes. He says, Mr. Sherrill, you don't know me, but I was Will's drug buddy at the University of Alabama. And now I am the recruiter at the Reprieve in Opelika, Alabama. And he says, I've seen many of drug addicts in my life, and if I've ever seen anyone ready, it's Ryan.
Really?
So that's like the tugging on the cord there, you know. So, well, I said, we can't afford $60,000. So he calls back and he says, let me see what we can do. So he says, how about 30? And I said, well, that might be doable. He said, but it'll be all due at one time. I said, no, I'll give you $2,500 a month. And I said, and if Ryan walks, I'm not paying any more.
Right.
That's right.
I said, because I can't. I'll promise you, we won't pull him out, but I can't promise he doesn't walk.
Which he did many times.
So he calls back and he says, he's in. I said, okay. So we call Ryan. Said, okay, Ryan, you've been accepted to Opelika, Alabama. And so Danny was going to fly out there with him. I said,
he was going to fly out there and get him
and ride with him. I said, no.
He's
That's
tough.
his dad.
Dad was going to fly out there and ride with him and come back to Opelika, Alabama. I said, no.
Let him get here.
I said, if you want it that bad, you got to get there.
Yeah.
Now, the story is when he went to teach snow skiing, somehow to get his job, we had to send a birth certificate. We had to go find a birth certificate for his job. They had to have a birth certificate. So you know how long it takes for an addict to get from Mammoth Mountain, California to Opelika, Alabama? Long time.
Long time.
Yeah.
Long
Because
time.
he's doing drugs the whole way.
You know what's funny is that they told me to keep doing drugs when I went to treatment because they didn't want me to DT on the airplane.
Right.
Really?
So I wonder if I'm not saying they told him that, but I can.
Well, Jared said he'll keep doing drugs till he gets here. So he stops somewhere at a gas station and he invites some couple up to his room. He had the room for them to spend the night. They had the drugs or whatever. Right. Well, he wakes up the next morning. They have stolen everything except his knapsack with his birth certificate.
And shoes.
So this is God with the birth certificate. The birth certificate allowed him to go to a bank and get his last $300 to buy a bus trip from Santa Fe to Montgomery, Alabama.
What a story.
It's crazy.
Oh yeah. So he shows up in Montgomery, Alabama, and calls us early in the morning. He's in the Montgomery bus station, and Jerry went and got him. He went to Montgomery, Alabama from Auburn, Alabama, and picked him up and took him to rehab.
And that was it.
And here we are. Here we are.
Never again.
Then a year or so later, he graduates from the Reprieve, and then he goes to Jacksonville Bible College. And yesterday morning, he had 30 guys at his house for Bible study at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning.
Okay, there's a power in having a strong parent involved in this. Not saying that you and Danny aren't strong.
Got my hand raised.
But there's a power in being strong and knowing when to not enable and knowing that it's okay to continue just being tough. Yeah. So let's talk about your marriage real quick in these last few minutes that we've gotten together on this episode. Do you let any of this work its way in?
Well, yeah, I get mad because I want to do this for them, and he's like, stop babying them. And I'm like, I just love them.
Yeah. So I try to tell her that they're 34 years old and they got to man up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
you know? Does. And so it's a fine line of what you help them with and what you don't help them with.
Do you feel like that toughness is the way you're built or the way you had to be after losing a son?
Yes.
Probably, yeah.
Were you ever this tough on Will?
Oh, no, he got everything he wanted.
Yeah.
But he was nice about it. I mean, it wasn't like he was temper tantrum or anything like that. But,
right.
But he was the only child, and looking back on it, he was spoiled.
I think a parent, as two parents and as one stepdad, you just do the best you can. There's no books, there's no rules. You just do the best you can.
As a team.
And if you fall, then somebody's there to catch you.
Yeah.
You know, Will or Danny, and you're just there to be there. I think to summarize all this, God is a miracle maker, a mountain mover.
Yeah.
Beyond, he has increased my faith. If I want to say thanks, Ryan, for going through this for me, you know, you did it. You did it. And I will thank Ryan. And he has been very humble to just, you know, thank us for helping him in every respect. He's grown into an unbelievable man, and I'm blessed. He shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
He should not be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He should not be, but it's the grace of God. And Will would always say, at least he's here.
Yeah.
I would tell her, God's kept him alive for a reason. He's got a plan for him.
So if I could say anything to parents, I would just say, let it go. The best you can. And just pray. And just know, even though you don't know it now, but know that God's got a plan and he's orchestrating everything. And if it were not for our experience, and Ryan's experience, and Brad's experience, and Danny's, we wouldn't be where we are now.
Yeah.
We'd be selfish people that we were thinking
Just didn't care.
Didn't care, you know, but also that addiction is not immune to everyone and anyone.
Marriages suffer, you know, parents suffer.
Oh yes.
We are in recovery with the child, the
and
wife.
We become the addict too.
Yeah. So we have to walk through this together, but there's a strength part of it where it's like, well, if they need to get from Colorado to Alabama, they'll figure it out if they want it bad enough. Right. But then there's a sentimental, nurturing side of it that plays a role, and that's how we balance this whole thing out. So, well, guys, I can't thank you enough for being on the episode today. I can't thank you enough for just sharing your testimony and just being transparent with us. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Prayerfully, I hope that helps somebody out there.
Yeah.
And we're here if anyone needs to ever talk to us.
Yep. Hey, thanks for tuning in today's episode of Recovery Vow Podcast. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you would like to connect with us, you can connect with us through email at recoveryvow@gmail.com, our website, recoveryvow.com, or you can find us on our different social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. But we would love for you to go to YouTube and subscribe to our channel. If you would like to pre-order a copy of my book, Marriage After Addiction, Take Back Your Life Together, you can do that through the store at exomarriage.com, or you'll see a link on any of our social media platforms. I look forward to seeing you again very soon. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Recovery Vow Podcast is brought to you by Goldmec, Newsom Electric, S&S Supplies, Carpet Cleaning Pros of Augusta, Rhett Walker, Atlas Health and Wellness, Norval Fixture and Equipment, Augusta Lawn and Turf, the Augusta Dream Center, Bagwell Insurance, Sally Kohler Photography, Burroughs Elijah Attorneys, Communigraphics, Kendra Neal Studio, Kendrick Paint and Body, Coleman Construction, Augusta Magazine, State Farm Insurance, Craig International. And I want to say thanks to everyone else who's contributed to the Recovery Vow podcast. We couldn't do this without you.